welcome to my YouTube channel / podcast / website. My name is Kathie Owen. I am your host, and let me introduce myself if you're new here. I am a certified fitness trainer, certified life coach since 2002, founder of the Silver Wellness Academy at KathieOwen.com. I teach people how to transform their lives in magic fashion because it seems like freaking magic when you transform your life by becoming aware of your thought habits. Today we're going to talk about Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Chapter 3, the core of the ego. But before I get started on this chapter, I've got to share with you a story that has so much to do with this chapter. And the story has to do with people, or I like to say kids nowadays, calling positivity toxic. There's a term out there that freaking rubs me the wrong way called toxic positivity. And I have this gal on Instagram that I follow for her fitness tips. And she cracks me up because I know she labels me as toxic positivity because that toxic positivity, I'm telling you, I go back and check on her from time to time and it is not working for her. And I can tell you that toxic positivity is not toxic. It freaking saved my life. The only thing that can be toxic about it is the way you look at it. So if you're looking at positivity as toxic, somebody is forcing positivity on you. It is not toxic. You're being forced. You feel as you are forced to be positive about something that you're pissed off about and you're grieving and you're in the processes of grief. So you're in victim mentality. And as long as you're in victim mentality, you're going to fight for your limitations. Here's what happened. Back last summer, in about June of 2020, the race battle was on. And everything was going crazy. And so it was it was horrible. So this gal is white, and she also has what she calls thin privilege. She has white privilege. And I mean, she doesn't have it. She apologizes for the color of her skin. And she's all up into Black Lives Matter. She jumped on that bandwagon. I totally get it. I totally understand it. If you want to see my opinion about what is going on back in that time, I do have a video that I did on this. And it's going to be a link in the description. But here's the thing, she posted on there, on her Instagram thing, if you are not angry, you're not paying attention. And all of that is wrong. Anger never solved anything. Look at the levels of consciousness in power versus force, and anger is under force. And you are never going to solve anything when you are in anger, because anger is forcing against resistance. What you resist persists. So I wrote back to her and I said, anger never solved anything. And she goes, you're not paying attention. And I mean, she freaking chewed me out on her Instagram feed. And I told her, I said, yeah, I am not listening to all of this stuff that's going on, all the media, all the negativity. I'm listening to people like Aaron Doughty and Abraham Hicks. And so she went off on me and said, I'm not listening to those white people, what they're saying. And I'm like, oh my God. I get pissed off just thinking about this right now because and it kind of cracks me up because if you know, Abraham Hicks is not a person. It's not a human. It is a spiritual entity that is channeled through Esther Hicks. Aaron Doughty speaks all about spirituality. And at the time, he was saying things that I was agreeing with, that I believed in. But I made the mistake of even saying anything to this girl because she's very unconscious. And that was my mistake. And to this day, I still get pissed off about it because it's like, dude, I know she calls me toxic positivity. She has like 140,000 followers, and she comes back and she was even looking at my story. She even noticed that I wasn't following her. Mind you, I hadn't been following her for a long time. And I just go check on her to see how that toxic positivity is working out for her. And I can just tell you right now, it is not working out for her very well. And you can go look at her. I'm going to put a link in the description below because she had no trouble calling me out to her 140,000 followers. And I have no trouble calling her out to my little 25, which cracks me up. It just cracks me up. Anyways, let's go on with this chapter, and I'm going to refer back to this story often. Another thing I'm going to refer back to before I get started is the fight against cancer, the fight against COVID, anything. Just remember, anytime you're fighting something, you're working with resistance. But you don't have to listen to me because Eckhart Tolle says it right here, plain as day. And I love how he says it. It's just like so awesome. So the title of the chapter is called The Core of the Ego. He starts out, most people are so completely identified with the voice in the head, the incessant stream of involuntary and compulsive thinking and the emotions that accompany it, that we may describe them as being possessed by their mind. He goes on to say, the content of the ego varies from person to person, but in every ego, the same structure operates. The ego lives on with identification and separation. Remember those two things. The ego lives on with identification and separation. So think about every ego operates the same. The egoic compulsive habit of fault finding and complaining about others. Here we go. Fault finding and complaining about others. That is what these toxic positivity people do. All they do is complain about everybody else without thinking it through, and they're compulsive about it. This gal is compulsive about the fault finding of other people, and it's all her ego. It's all in her mind. She actually, this kind of cracks me up too, she actually threw away on Black Friday, one of these freaking legging stuff that they wear that has a little scrunch up the ass, the little let me explain this. So girls nowadays wear these leggings where they have the little it looks like little wrinkles that go up the butt crack, so your butt cheeks look real nice and big and perky. And it's cute, don't get me wrong, if you're in your 20s and 30s, but it's kind of, if you're looking at it like an old person like me, it's like, okay, all right, gotcha. It's like wearing a push-up bra, I guess. But anyhow, it's neither here nor there. The company was paying her like big money to be a part of their sponsorship or whatever. You know, she had a Black Friday deal and people got a code, and I don't know what all happened because I don't have time to look through all the drama, but the company pissed her off because they didn't agree with her values. Most likely it was something that had to do with the thin privilege that I mentioned, because she's saying that the fitness industry, she she fights so hard to make the fitness industry understand that they're shaming people and making them feel bad about their bodies, and that they shouldn't be shaming them and they shouldn't be telling them to do this diet or that diet. And it's not about weight loss and blah, 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 blah. I mean, she's totally fighting it, but that's okay. But she threw away probably a ton of money just because this company did something she didn't agree with, and she stood up for it. Okay, just go right ahead. Let's continue with this chapter and you'll see what I'm saying. Complaining and resentment. Complaining is one of the ego's favorite strategies for strengthening itself. So let me go back to all of this that I'm talking about. I am complaining about this girl. I'm complaining about her, plain and simple. That's exactly what I'm doing. And it's one of the ego's favorite strategies for strengthening itself. So let's go to Reality Transurfing and talk about pendulums. That's just a pendulum. I mean, I seriously got so pissed off when she was laughing at me. She was literally laughing at me for fighting for Abraham Hicks. And she said, "You're blinded by the light." And she probably meant by light, by white skin, is probably what she meant. I meant, and I agreed with her. She finally goes, "Okay, fine, we can agree to disagree, LOL." And I'm like, shut up. But anyways, I'm blinded by the light. You're exactly right. I am blinded by the light. And I would much rather listen to Abraham Hicks talk about what was going on in the world than the freaking media and social media. Period. Bottom line, no matter what. And that was because I'm aware that complaining and being angry and being mad is just the ego strengthening itself. It's just a pendulum trying to hook my energy. That's what it is. Whether you complain aloud or only in thought makes no difference. Name calling is the crudest form of such labeling, and the ego's need to be right and triumph over others. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Okay, resentment is the emotion that goes with complaining and the mental labeling of people and adds even more energy to the ego. Oh my gosh. So resentment is the emotion that goes with complaining. I'm being resentful by the way I'm talking about this gal, and it adds even more energy to the ego. You could replace the word ego with pendulum and you would be right on target. Seriously, you would. The ego loves it. He says, you resent other people's greed, their dishonesty, their lack of integrity, what they are doing, what they did in the past, what they said, what they failed to do, what they should or shouldn't have done. And the ego loves it. So does a pendulum. You could replace ego and pendulum the same way. Sometimes the fault that you perceive in another isn't even there. And what you react to in another, you strengthen in yourself. I'm going to repeat that sentence. What you react to in another, you strengthen in yourself. This is the pendulum 101. The pendulum will hook you, and what you react to, it just strengthens. Because the pendulum, all it wants is your energy. That's all it wants. Non-reaction to the ego in others is one of the most effective ways, not only of going beyond the ego in yourself, but also dissolving the collective human ego. This right here is also in Reality Transurfing. It is the same exact thing as what Vadim Zeland would say when he goes, the pendulum is trying to hook you, and the best way to react to it is non-reaction. Reactivity is force. Reactivity is force. And when you're working with force, you're going to hit resistance. And what you resist persists. A pendulum, the best way to stop it. And the best way of provoking you is just to sit back and watch it. Just sit back and watch it play out. But you have to watch it with non-emotion, which is hard because your ego is like, oh, hell no, I'm going off on this little girl because she's being da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da-da. She doesn't even know what Abraham Hicks is, blah, 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 blah. That is my ego talking. When you realize it's not personal, there is no longer a compulsion to react as if it were. By not reacting to the ego, you will often be able to bring out the sanity in others, which is the unconditioned consciousness as opposed to the condition. So let's take sports, for example. My oldest son loves sports. He has since he was little. And it is hilarious because he gets so pissed off when his team loses. He gets, like extremely mad ever since he was a little boy. He is totally sucked into that pendulum because he would get so mad. You think they were saying that his name, you would think they were saying Kathie Owen is the worst person in the world because the freaking Texas Longhorns lost the football game. I mean, you would think that it's all over the whole world in the media, and this is way sports fanatics react. This is way the ego reacts. It's a conditioned response. It's conditional love. Unconditional love says, oh, okay, we lost a game. It's not about me. It's not about them. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way it works. And when you sit back and you observe it like that, it can't take your energy. But when you observe it as, hey, this is all about me, then it's going to be about you, and you're going to be enforced. You're going to be met with resistance, and that resistance is going to push against the grain. It's going to cause more resistance. Somebody becomes an enemy if you personalize the unconsciousness that is ego. Non-reaction is not weakness, but strength. Another word for non-reaction is forgiveness. To forgive is to overlook, or rather to look through. You look through the ego to the sanity that it is in every human being as his or her essence. The ego loves to complain and feel resentment, not only about other people, but also about situations. What you can do to a person, you can also do to a situation. Make it into an enemy. The implication is always, this should not be happening. I do not want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. I'm being treated unfairly. And the ego's greatest enemy of all, of course, is the present moment, which is to say, life itself. Whoa. See if you can catch, that is to say, notice the voice in the head, perhaps in the very moment it complains about something, and recognize it for what it is, the voice of the ego, no more than a conditioned mind pattern, a thought. Whenever you notice that voice, you will also realize that you are not the voice, but the one who is aware of it. That is how Vadim Zeland says to treat a pendulum. Become aware of it and notice that it is just a voice. It's just a thought. Every time it is recognized, it is weakened. Every time it is recognized, it is weakened. It weakens its energy. It weakens its pull. Reactivity and grievances. This is so much like the pendulum. I resent this. They are addicted to upset and anger as others are to a drug. A long-standing resentment is called a grievance. To carry a grievance is to be in a permanent state of against, and that is why grievances constitute a significant part of many people's ego. A grievance is a strong negative emotion connected to an event, and the sometimes distant past that is being kept alive by compulsive thinking, by retelling the story in the head or out loud of what someone did to me or what someone did to us. A grievance will also contaminate other areas of your life. For example, while you think about and you feel your grievance, its negative emotional energy can distort your perception of an event that is happening in the present or influence the way in which you speak or behave towards someone in the present. One strong grievance is enough to contaminate large areas of your life and keep you in the grip of the ego. Okay, I'm just saying. Grievance, I mean, we're in December now and I'm still talking about what happened in June. The thing about me though is I'm aware of it. I'm very aware of it. I'm very aware of what this is doing and exactly what is taking place. And I'm only using this as an example because when I was reviewing this chapter before I went on this episode, I was going, oh my God, that's exactly what I did. And that is a great example of how the pendulum works, how the ego works, and how a grievance works, how resentment works, how anger works. And it's just such a prime example that it makes it easier to understand exactly what's going on. Because I understood it even as it was going on, but I let it hook me and I let it take me in. But I was aware of it. That's another thing that I learned with Reality Transurfing is if you're aware of the energy you're sending to the pendulum, you can kind of play with it and you can kind of use it to your advantage. Here's exactly what I am doing. I'm using it to my advantage right now because I'm teaching a lesson on how the pendulum works, how the ego works, and it's easier to understand if you hear it from a story than if I'm just reading it from a book or taking it from an example. Forgiveness happens naturally when you see that it has no purpose other than to strengthen a false sense of self or to keep the ego in place. The past has no power to stop you from being present now. Only your grievance about the past can do that. And what is a grievance? The baggage of old thought and emotion. Whoa. Okay. Being right, making wrong. Real quick, because I got to close up this podcast pretty soon. There is nothing that strengthens the ego more than being right. A perspective, an opinion, a judgment, a story. So that's funny because that's what that gal was doing. She was trying so freaking hard to be right that she pushed me back in a corner. I was like, yeah, you're right, girl. I'm blinded by the light. I am. And she goes, good, we can agree to disagree. I mean, they were seriously, she had a few of her followers on the same feed as mine laughing at me. They go, oh, I guess we pissed her off. And I go, no, I'm just blinded by the light over here. Okay, good. We're agree. We agree on something. Oh, okay. You're right, honey. You're right. Go right ahead. Whatever. In defense of an illusion is the next section. He goes, ego takes everything personally. No, the truth in any case needs no defense. The truth in any case needs no defense. What? See, that's where I back down and I go, you're right, I'm blinded by the light, because I am. Because I'm blinded by the light. And the truth is, the words of Abraham Hicks. I have never heard Abraham speak in a way where the ego is in there. And I've listened to hundreds of Abraham YouTube videos and read stuff that they channeled through Esther. I've never heard ego in that. And if you have, please tell me. I want to hear it. Please give me the link, everything. And it's the truth. That's why it is the truth, and the truth needs no defense. So I didn't need to defend anything because I am blinded by the truth. That's all there was to it. The illusion is defending itself. So defending yourself is your illusion. Every ego confuses opinions and viewpoints with facts. It cannot tell the difference between an event and its reaction to an event. Every ego is a master of selective perception and distorted interpretation. Only through awareness are you able to see the totality of the situation or person instead of adopting one limited perspective. Wow. Truth, relative or absolute, he goes on to say. And I'm just going to read this real quick here. The history of Christianity is, of course, a prime example of how the belief that you are in a sole possession of the truth, that is to say, right, can corrupt your actions and behavior to the point of insanity. For centuries, torturing, burning people alive if their opinion diverged even the slightest from church doctrine or narrow interpretations of the scripture, the truth in quotations, was considered right because the victims were wrong. They were so wrong that they needed to be killed. The truth was considered more important than human life. And what was the truth? A story you had to believe in, which means a bundle of thoughts. But you won't find the absolute truth if you look for it where it cannot be found, in doctrines, ideologies, set of rules, or stories. That's why I like Neville Goddard's teaching of the Bible. Because if you listen to Neville Goddard talk about the Bible and scripture, which he knew, he would read the Bible 8 hours a day. He knew the Bible. He knew it very, very well. But he didn't teach it from a doctrine. He didn't teach it from an ideology. He didn't teach it from a set of rules. And he didn't teach it from stories. For the Bible is all about you. It's all in you. And I love how Neville teaches it. Because I was raised a Christian. I understand the Bible very, very well. I understand Christianity very, very well. But I think Christianity is a limited belief system that has a lot of judgment within it. That's just the way I was raised. I 100% believe in the Bible. I 100% believe in the Bible. But as it says in the Kabbalion, all truths are half-truths. We do not know the whole truth because we are living in a 3D world. We're evolving to 4D and 5D, but because we only see in 3D, we can't see beyond what is the physical, which is a lot of Christianity believes in the Bible to be physical. That actually really happened yes, it happened. And you cannot dispute that with a Christian because they get angry. But where we go back to anger, and we're going back to I'm telling you, I lived there before. I was there before because that's how I was raised and that's what I really believed. But my beliefs evolved. And thank God, because living in anger and getting mad at somebody because they don't agree with you is so wrong. I was in Toastmasters meeting this morning. And the Toastmaster, we have a variety of beliefs in our group. And we respect the diversity that's in our group. But today it's right around Christmas, and the theme of the meeting had to do with Christmas because the Toastmaster is a Christian. And he actually apologized to the group that he was going to be praising the birth of Jesus Christ, that's what he believed in. Okay, there's so much distortion going on there that he doesn't sit there and think, okay, the Jew can believe in the birth of Jesus Christ just like you do. But you're closing him off to the fact that he doesn't. There's a physical factor going on there. There's a 3D factor going on there. If you truly believe in something, you're not going to apologize for it when you're talking to somebody. You're not going to apologize for it because it is the truth. Therefore, somewhere he's got doubt in his mind. He's got judgment in his mind. And I'm not judging him either. It's just I see where his thoughts are taking him. Why apologize for what you believe in? Why? If it's a belief and it's really true, you're not going to apologize for it. Period. Hands down, period. Free of identification with form. There is only one absolute truth, and all other truths emanate from it. Just like I just said. There's only one absolute truth, and all other truths emanate from it. Human action can reflect the truth, or it can reflect illusion. That man was reflecting illusion. Period. He was reflecting an illusion. For if it was his truth, he would not apologize for it. The very being that you are is truth. Jesus tried to convey this when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Neville will teach that. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Look it up. Look up Neville Goddard and what he thinks of Jesus. Jesus speaks of innermost I am, the essence, identity of every man and woman. You know, every time you say I am, you're quantifying a truth. And actually, I started off this podcast and I said, my name is Kathie Owen. I am a certified fitness trainer and certified life coach. But I don't like that terminology because that's not who I am. I am is not even describable with words. And I try to rephrase that, but if you go back and listen at the very beginning of this, I did say that. And I caught myself in my mind saying that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not right. But I'm not going to defend it. All your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. Laws, commandments, rules, and regulations are necessary for those who are cut off from who they are, the truth within. They prevent the worst excesses of the ego, and often they don't do that. Love and do what you will, said St. Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that. You've got to get this book. I'm just saying. Especially if you're still here listening to this, you've got to get this book and read it over and over again. The ego is not personal. On a collective level, the mindset, we are right and they are wrong, is particularly deeply entrenched in parts of the world where conflict between two nations, races, tribes, religions, ideologies is long-standing, extreme, and endemic. Complete identification with thought and emotion, that is to say, ego. The particular ego patterns that you react to most strongly in others and misperceive as their identity tend to be the same patterns that are also in you, but you are unable or unwilling to detect within yourself. Anything that you resent strongly and strongly react to in another person is also in you. But it is completely impersonal. There is why I use that example from the beginning of this episode. I gave that example because that is me pushed out. That gal is me pushed out. When I was 30, I probably would have been the same way. I doubt it because I've never been a person to force my teachings on others, and she forces her opinions on others. But there is a part of me that would, because look at me right now. I'm trying to instill this idea in others because that pendulum hooked me. And I saw where it hooked me. And I saw how it got me. And I saw how it pissed me off, because I'm still pissed to this day. But that's my ego talking. That's me pushed out. And the only reason I'm pissed is because I'm trying to force my opinion on her. And it's not, that's just my ego. That's not me. War is a mindset. Fighting unconsciousness will draw you into unconsciousness yourself. Unconsciousness is just becoming unaware of being hooked by the pendulum. Unconsciousness is being unaware of what is true, which only the good is true. Whatever you fight, you strengthen, and whatever you resist, persist. That's for sure. That's why I say it at the beginning of this episode, think of fighting cancer. People fighting cancer all the time. Whatever you fight, you strengthen. Whatever you resist, persists. You're resisting healing when you're fighting cancer. You're resisting healing, and that's what you want. If you want healing, think only the good. Think only the loving. Think only the right, the true, what is pure, what is clean. War is a mindset, and all action that comes out of such a mindset will either strengthen the enemy, the perceived evil, or if the war is won, will create a new enemy, a new evil, equal to and often worse than the one that was defeated. Look at the American government right now. That is all it is. It's just strengthening and strengthening and strengthening what they don't like. And eventually that corruption is going to corrupt itself and evolve. I mean, the spiritual teachers are talking like what's about to happen on December 21st, which I don't think is going to happen in like a spark of a moment that everybody's going to go right into 5D, but that's what's going to happen. And once we're in 5D, this war mindset is going to eat itself up. I read something in Wayne Dyer's readings that he said, what did he say? He was talking about how if you're, and Eckhart talked about this too a moment ago. He said that if you're living without, if you're living in the truth, the capital T truth, if you're living in the truth, you don't need rules, you don't need laws, you don't need enforcement of laws and rules and truth. If you're living in truth, you don't need to be condemned for whatever you did. That's a basic truth. Once you see the ego for what it is, it becomes much easier to remain non-reactive toward it. That's what Vadim Zeland teaches too with the pendulum. Once you see what it is, it becomes easy to be non-reactive to it. Do you want peace or drama? He goes on to say. He says you want peace, and I've already talked about this. Beyond ego, your true identity. What is a spiritual realization? Spiritual realization is to see clearly that what I perceive, experience, think, or feel is ultimately not who I am, that I cannot find myself in all things that continuously pass away. Jesus said, deny thyself. What he meant was negate and thus undo the illusion of self. Can I sense my essential beingness, the I am in the background of my life at all times? To be more accurate, can I sense the I am that I am at this moment? Back to the I am. All structures are unstable. He came across this sign that said that, and illusion will never satisfy you. Only the truth of who you are, if realized, will set you free. Only the truth, if realized, will set you free. Once you realize and accept that all structures, in parentheses he says forms, are unstable, even the seemingly solid material ones, peace arises within you. The dimension of the formless within yourself, that which is beyond death. Jesus called it eternal life. The ego's need to feel superior, ego and fame. Yeah, he goes on to talk about those things, but I've already discussed all that in this episode. I discussed all that with my story, my situation, and go observe it. That's why I enjoy looking at her, continuing to look at her feed. I go in and check on her from time to time. I make sure before I do that I'm in a place where I'm in non-comparison, non-judgment. I stay off of social media a lot just because of the comparison factor. I don't care who you are. There's going to be some element of comparison when you are looking at social media. Whether it's, oh, I'm looking at that person's business and how it's doing, or I'm looking at that person's outfit, how it looks, and what would it look like on me, or I'm looking at that person's beauty, and oh my gosh, I don't even come close, whatever. There is elements of comparison. That's just the nature of human beings. And in my thought email subscription, I have a little way to identify where your thoughts are affecting your life. I highly recommend signing up for my email list where you can subscribe there. It's at www.kathieowen.com/thought. Even if you're already on my email list, you subscribe to that, you're going to get this little document that helps you identify your thought patterns. Where your thought habits, what are they? Where do they come from? How do they affect your life? I mean, Eckhart just said in that chapter that everything you think affects your life. And if you're sucked into this toxic positivity, you are going to get more of it. You're going to get more of it. But if you get aware of it and you pull yourself out of it and you go, oh, I see what just happened. I see I got sucked into that pendulum. My ego was like trying to be right. I'm trying to be the winning team, not to be talking about Kathie Owen everywhere because my team lost. No, that's not the truth. That is not who you are. That is not unconditional love. That is conditional love. So I'm just going to leave you with that because I got to go to work. And until next time, I'll see you next time. Peace out and namaste.